Chapter 11. The Two Joyous Centers. In the previous chapter, we saw that the security, sensation, and power centers of consciousness cannot be depended upon to continuously enable you to feel that you are getting quote unquote enough to be happy in life. One problem with the security center is that with a little imagination, you can always find one more loophole in your security setup that must be plugged, and there is no end. The sensation center of consciousness cannot work to produce happiness for you either, because you will very likely become bored with anything that you do repetitively. You seek to solve the boredom trap by finding more and more variety, but this in its turn just brings another set of problems into your life. The power center of consciousness will not work to produce happiness for you because your pushing, dominating, and manipulating will stimulate similar actions from other people. Their defensive and offensive tactics then require you to be more dominating and forceful, but this only works for a short while until the people outside of you respond with even more force. What you expected to be a simple solution to a situation actually sets up the next round of problems in your life. When you see the unconscious dance in which you have been ensnarling yourself, you begin to realize that a higher center of consciousness is required to enable you to enjoy your life. In the last chapter, we learned that when our consciousness operates on the lower three centers of security, sensation, and power, we can achieve great external success, but be a failure inside in terms of happiness. We are beginning to get somewhere in our journey toward awakening when our consciousness deals more and more with the drama of our lives from the point of view of the two joyous centers, the love center and the cornucopia center. The fourth center of consciousness, the love center. The fourth center of consciousness in the living love way is called the love center. Love comes with the unconditional acceptance of everyone and everything around us. And how do we do this? When your consciousness lives in the love center, you instantly accept anything that anyone does or anything that happens, but the acceptance is only on an emotional basis. You're still entitled to your preferences. A mother will love her child even though he upsets the quart of milk and it smashes on the kitchen floor. She prefers that the quart remain intact, but if it spills, that's here and now. Why get emotionally upset and bother herself and the baby too? How do you love everyone unconditionally so that you do not upset yourself, no matter what he does or says? You can do this only by transcending your security, sensation, and power addictions. For it is only your emotional programming that disturbs you when the events outside do not conform with the programming that you may have conditioned inside of you. As your addictions begin to melt away, you begin to experience everything and everyone around you in a completely different way. Your view of them not You view them not in terms of how they meet your addictive needs, for you are losing those quote unquote needs. You just view them in terms of, quote, well, that's what is here and now. You realize that each individual has the need to be doing exactly what he or she is doing here and now. You realize that everyone, including yourself, is creating a world in which one's addictions are lived out. When you consciously notice the hollowness and suffering that these addictions cause, you achieve insights that help you get free from them. You are in the love center when you accept everything people do as part of their journeys towards awakening. You know that if they are consciously on the path, they will similarly accept your moment to moment, quote unquote, stuff. For this is what helps them grow too. And if they are not consciously on the path and become angry, that's their problem. As your addictions become up leveled to preferences, you begin to find that you can you begin to find that you can instantly accept what was previously unacceptable emotionally. After all, you really have no choice. Whatever is, is. That's where it's at, right here and right now. You might be able to change the situation 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, or 1 day from now. And by not getting irritated, you will be more effective in realizing your preferences. As you learn to live more and more in the love center of consciousness, you will begin to find that you are creating a new world in which your consciousness resides. People and conditions are no longer a threat to you, for one can threaten for nobody can threaten your preferences. Quote unquote others can only threaten your addictions, and you're losing them fast. Soon your mind will create no quote unquote others. As your addictions are reprogrammed, you will find that your ego, quote unquote, has less and less to do, and your ego will activate the egos of other people less and less. Thus, people begin to experience you as becoming pure as you give your ego less to do. This helps them become purer. Even though they may still be stuck in the lower three centers, they find that they seldom get in touch with these feelings when they are with you. They can become, or they can begin to get a taste of what it is live, or what it is like to live in the more joyous centers of consciousness. They may come down when they are not with you, but you will have planted a seed of awakening. When you live more and more in the love center of consciousness, you will find that your blood circulation will improve and your hands and feet may be warmer. Your blood vessels will no longer be tight and restricted so that you feel cold excessively and deeply. Your face and the back of your neck and your head will stay especially warm and glowing. Your skin will experience uh, cold, but you will not feel cold inside. This is one of the beautiful physiological things that happens as you grow into higher consciousness. This greater openness of your circulatory system also affects your brain and other organs to make them function more effectively. Colds and illnesses become rare. As you spend more and more time in the fourth center of consciousness, you will find that you enjoy touching people more and more. Now that you are seldom paranoid, you can enjoy the beautiful feelings of warmth and oneness that you can experience when you make contact, not only through words, sight, and sound, but also through your touch receptors. As you break through the illusion of duality and separation, you begin to realize that it was only in your head that previously kept you from loving people unconditionally. It was not their actions, as you had been conditioned to believe. It was not their actions, as you had conditioned to believe. You begin to see with insight the worldly dramas of addictions that people are still playing out on the first three levels of consciousness, and you feel deep compassion towards those who are still involved in the illusion of separateness. You know that the best way to help them is to work on yourself so that they can perceive, perhaps for the very first time in their lives, the experience of unconditional love. They begin to say to themselves, wow, here's someone who accepts me all the time, no matter what I do or say. Love doesn't require you to get involved in their quote unquote stuff as they struggle through life seeking security, sensation, and power. You just accept them because there they are, because they have a right to be here and there, and because where they are is perfect for their growth and also yours. Every experience you have of other people either leaves you peaceful and loving, or it makes you aware of the addictive addictions to be reprogrammed. When someone does things that you previously found unacceptable, but which you can now emotionally accept, you can say to yourself, quote, great, I'm getting on with it. Joe just checked me out and I passed the test of being free of that addiction. There is nothing wrong with letting your ego give you a little pat on the back because you are living more and more in the love center. You can use your ego to constantly raise your center of consciousness. If Joe does something and you make yourself feel a bit uptight and alienated from him, you can say to yourself, quote, Joe is my teacher because he is showing me an addiction that I should get rid of. In the fourth center of consciousness, you experience quote unquote work as an expression of love and caring. Work is no longer performed unconsciously or mechanically with the feeling that one can fully enjoy life again when the job is done. You will increase your growth into higher consciousness by learning to flow energy into meeting the needs of quote unquote others as though they were your own needs. To paraphrase an ancient saying, when I don't know who I am, I serve everyone around me. When I do know who I am one with everyone around me. Selfless service is a beautiful way to get free of the three lower centers of consciousness. An ego grasping for security, sensation, and power will always trade or barter energy for something that will best enhance its mirage like lower consciousness situation. When you do only those tasks that are pleasant, unavoidable, or that enhance your security, sensation, and power trip, you let your ego keep you trapped. Selfless service without thought of reward is a characteristic of the fourth center of consciousness. You are beginning to experience that living in a world of love is always enough. You know that your feelings of isolation, separation, and paranoia are always artificially created by your emotional programming. You realize that although our bodies and minds are different, in the realm of conscious awareness, all of us are the same. And just as a mother loves her infant, no matter what he does, you realize that as you grow into higher consciousness, you can love everyone around you, regardless of what he or she, excuse me. Even if someone attacks you fiercely through words or even hits you, he is simply playing out his addictions. He is trying to get you to act differently so that his addictions will not trouble him when he interacts with you. So no matter what happens, you experience, excuse me, everything as love. You finally arrive at the place where nothing can happen or that happens in the world around you knocks you out of the love center of consciousness. You can emotionally accept everything. You can always return love no matter what a person does or says. And by doing this, you will be doing the most you can to help others transcend their addictions. If you remain loving even when they try to hurt you, they may begin to find the love place in themselves, which they so want to experience, but which they don't yet know how to find. Everything is either an effective or ineffective way of creating love, peace, and oneness. No matter how horrendous your acts may be, you always want to be understood and loved. So does everyone else. So just remember how we are all trapped by our addictions, and then you will understand. And then you can unconditionally love everyone as an unfolding being. Relationships that are held together by quote unquote shoulds or quote unquote shouldn'ts lose their spontaneous here and now vividness. Love cannot be a programmed addiction held together by fear or pressure. Real love blossoms and remains where there is no addiction, but instead a vibrant, totally here and now involvement. And the optimal future is always generated from the free flowing, non expectant present moment. If you have current obligations, you acknowledge these and follow through with them. For when you begin your journey to higher consciousness, you start from where you are right now. When you ignore or avoid your obligations, you create a me them attitude. This does not create a space for the harmonizing of energies into a quote unquote us consciousness. And as you consciously relate to your obligations, you work them out by working on yourself. In the future, You make only those obligations which you can flowingly fulfill within an quote unquote us space. When you live in the love center of consciousness and are relatively free of addictions, you will find that you can love everyone unconditionally, for it is your involvement that is conditional, not your love. You have only 24 hours in a day, and your time will usually be spent with people who have similar preferences and with whom you enjoy doing things. When the deepest harmonizing of energies takes place between people, they enjoy just being together, and it is not necessary to continually keep up a heavy drama of activities. You can just silently be with one another and totally enjoy being in one another's space. You may do many different things together, but the doing is never compulsive or contrived. You are able to experience a deep inner space by simply being in each other's presence, and you are not or you are able to love everyone around you, but you do not necessarily become involved in the dramas of everyone. When two people love from the fourth center of consciousness, they do not experience the love they have for other people as detracting or threatening the love that they share. They are not held together by a jealous, romantic model of love that constitutes an addiction that makes them vulnerable to suffering. They keep their consciousness in a state where they are totally involved and yet totally non addicted. They give each other total freedom and unconditional acceptance. They love and serve each other in a relatively egoless way. Equally for both of them, loving and serving yields the maximum of all the beautiful things that life can offer. As you experience the peace, harmony, and love that you are creating in your life, you begin to realize that all of the problems in the world will solve themselves when we, now 9 billion people on the earth, in ways characterized, or we live in ways characterized by love and service. You know that every feeling that you have and every thought and communication you make can add to the world total of loving energy that can, in chain fashion, propagate itself forever. Let me read that last sentence again. My apologies. You know that every feeling that you have and every thought and communication you can make can add to the world total of loving energy that can, in chain fashion, propagate itself forever.